What's going on, Jiu-Jitsu enthusiasts? So today I'm going to talk about how Jiu-Jitsu doesn't get you in shape. Well, actually, at first it does, because at first you might feel like, hey, this is the best workout. My heart's racing, my heart rate's really high, I'm sweating a lot, my muscles are burning and fatigue. This is the best work. This is the best workout. But even then, it's probably not the best workout because there's a lot of areas it's not really addressing. But pretty soon, that gets replaced with Jiu-Jitsu starts becoming easier physically, if that makes sense. It's less physically exhausting. Your muscles don't burn. You don't gas out so fast. And you might have seen memes like this online versus like you have like a meme of a really good shape blue belt and be like, you either quit Jiu-Jitsu being a really good, you either quit Jiu-Jitsu being in a blue belt who's in really good shape, or you turn into a brown belt who's really out of shape and injured. It's kind of like a funny meme here. But there's a lot of truth to that, because what happens is, like, especially if you rely on Jiu-Jitsu as your exercise and fitness, and a lot of guys do, and I get it, because if you don't like exercise, like I can say all day, hey, you should strength train, you should go to the gym, blah, 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 blah. But it's easy for me to say, first of all, because I have more time, because I'm a trainer, I'm already at the gym, but I actually really fucking like it. Like, I have a lot of fun. Like, I started a new program this weekend. I had a blast doing it. Not everyone is like that. So if you're someone who hates the gym, you hate lifting weights, you hate like regular exercise, and you do jiu-jitsu because you're like, hey, I love jiu-jitsu, and I'm getting some exercise, it's great. Well, the issue with that is the better you get at jiu-jitsu, the less stimulus you have from like an exercise, fitness, health standpoint. So you're not going to be huffing and puffing as much. Rounds aren't going to exhaust you. Your muscles aren't going to feel really burning. So if there's any level of strength and muscle building that happens with jiu-jitsu, and there's probably not much to begin with, just because it's not designed for that. That starts to go away, because as you get better at jiu-jitsu, you become more efficient, and when you become more efficient, you stop needing so much of those physical attributes. And we can say all day, hey, don't use strength. It's like when you don't have much technique and your timing's off and you don't know when to apply tension, you use your physical attributes. But the better you get at your technique, your timing, when to place tension, you can start like taking those physical attributes out. And the other thing, like if you become a higher belt, right? The thing is, jiu-jitsu's tough. To do it for a while, it's tough. It can be frustrating if you feel like you're not getting good fast enough. It can be very stressful to the life if you have like a wife and you have kids and whatnot. So to make it to the higher belts is an accomplishment in itself. If you get to purple belt, brown belt, black belt, so when you get to those things, a lot of the guys on the mats are usually, and this is my experience, you end up getting the higher the belts you go, you get to a point where like, okay, there's 5, 6 like black belts, brown belts, whatever. The rest are like blue and white belts. And the truth is, like, you roll with them, it's not really hard to control them, right? You got some super athletic kids who are going to be gifted and who like you can be like, oh, this guy's going to be really good, like very fast. But for the most part, like they're not going to challenge you that much, which means they're not going to challenge you from a physical standpoint, and that's usually how like younger belts or people who are new challenge you, because maybe they're faster or they're really strong or they're explosive, and they don't really challenge you from a technical standpoint. So like my whole point with saying that is, like, as you get to a high belt, you have less stimulus because you're usually better than a lot of the guys that you train with. And because of that, you are so efficient at jiu-jitsu, it doesn't create the same like stimulus as it used to. So it's so important if you want to be in shape, and not just for jiu-jitsu, for life. If you're a father, I'm sure you want to be in good shape and live long and have a high productive life so that you can do the stuff you need to do with your kids. You can do all the yard work. You're around when you have grandkids. So it kind of goes beyond that. So if you're someone who is like, I want to stay in shape, it comes a point, if you're not already, that you need to address your physical fitness, and jiu-jitsu probably isn't going to do it much. And At first, I don't think you should do it, but at first, you could make it an argument that jiu-jitsu gives you such a good workout when you're a white belt, blue belt, that, hey, maybe you stop lifting weights, maybe you stop doing cardio. And again, there's an argument for that. So what I'm going to talk about now is just some strategies that you can do to start getting in better shape. And this whole thing came to me like a few weeks ago because I wasn't gassing up. I was just a little more fatigued than I'm used to. So I wasn't sure if maybe I was just overtraining, because I have started to teach more classes, and with teaching more classes, I do roll a little more too. But then just the thought occurred to me. It's like, something, as you get better in jiu-jitsu and you become more efficient, you don't get such like an exercise or fitness stimulus. So you actually need you need to be more You need to be more focused and more what's the word that I'm trying to say? But you kind of, my whole point with this, you need that strength and conditioning. You need to get that cardio. You need the basic fitness stuff. So let's get started. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is strength training. So you should always strength train because it's going to strengthen your bones, your ligaments. It's going to keep you really healthy for jiu-jitsu. Most people like to look a certain way. Like if you build muscle, you're probably going to look better. Plus, strengthening your bones and your muscles are connected to a longer longevity. It means you're going to live longer, and not just live longer, but you're going to have a high quality of life. So the thing is, there's one thing to like maybe make it to 100 years old, but if like 30 of those years, it's not very highly functioning because your body's broken down and you're very slow and frail and stuff like that. That's probably not like what you want to live. So you definitely want to strength train. So there's a bunch of ways you can do this. I think for most people, especially if you don't like lifting weights, hitting full body like at least twice a week, doing some type of leg exercise, couple upper body exercises, maybe end with some arms. I think that's going to be a great place to start for a lot of people, and maybe that's all you go. If you like lifting, you might explore something more into a split. But I think just from not being sore all the time, not beating yourself up, if you get busy, like good thing about full body is say you plan on training like twice a week, but something happens on the second day when you got that one workout in. At least you can hang your hat on the fact that you worked your whole body that day. So I think full body workouts for most people is going to be ideal. I'm gonna go a little bit of like exercises a little bit later, but basically you want to do a leg exercise. So that would be either like a squat, hip hinge, like an RDL or a deadlift, or like a leg curl. Or a single leg exercise like a lunge or step up. So you want to pick one of those and pick like 2 upper body exercises. So with upper body, I always break it down to 2 things. Upper body push, so that's like your presses, your push-ups, your dips, anything where you push something away from you, and then your pull exercises. So that's your back exercises. So that's like if you row, like a chin up, a lat pull down. And if you do those, and if you train those pretty hard, so you want to find movements that you can do well that don't really irritate your joints. And you want to focus on training those pretty close to failure. 1 to 3, like maybe 1 to 3 reps of shy of failure. And sometimes people think this is dangerous as we get older, but it's actually going to strengthen your body and make your body not so fragile. The problem is like when we're pushing exercises hard, when our form's not that good, or when we're not good at exercise. So if you've only been deadlifting for a week and then you're doing like a really intense deadlift, like that's probably not the best way to do this. And that's why when you first start training, like it's not super important to go heavy. You're probably going to see gains just by doing the exercises because like when you first start, you just don't need a large stimulus. But once you learn the exercises, you've been lifting for a while, that's when you really need that intensity. But at first, I would just really focus on learn, especially if they're brand new, learn how to squat properly, learn all the movements properly, so that you can do it efficiently over time. So, and then I'm going to talk about actually doing cardio. So a good way to know if you probably need extra cardio is if you take your resting heart rate first thing in the morning before coffee, sit down, relax for a couple minutes, and see where it's at. If it's like in the high 60s above, it's usually it's not a perfect tool, but it's pretty close. It's usually an idea that you don't have great aerobic fitness, and that you probably need some cardio in your life. And when you improve your cardio, a lot of things improve with your aerobic fitness. Obviously your heart health, and that's connected to longevity. energy, your body's ability to recover. If you have bad cardio, you recover poorly, which means that not only in between rounds, maybe your recovery sucks, but in between sessions, which means that you can't really train that frequently without feeling beat up. Also, a higher level of aerobic fitness helps us deal with stress better. Just overall, like health, longevity, it's just super important. So what I find though is that once you build it, it's very easy to maintain. Say if you don't have good cardio, once you build it, you can and if you train jiu-jitsu frequently, I feel like I can maintain it with just being active and doing jiu-jitsu. So what I personally do is I'll have maybe 2 to 3 times a year where I'll do these cardio phases. So I'll still strength train, but I'll pick maybe 1 to 2 days and I'll just do some extra cardio. Usually some aerobic work. So when we say aerobic work, we want a low to moderate intensity and do this for like 30 to 40 minutes, like 1 to 2 times a week. And sometimes, like if you really are shape, even walking, that can be your zone 2. But usually your heart rate's in this 120 to 140-ish zone. And the reason why we need this low intensity, because what this does is this builds our heart muscle. It allows our heart to pump more blood to the rest of the body, which makes it very efficient, which is why you don't get tired when you have good aerobic fitness, because you're getting more oxygen and blood to your muscles with every pump, versus if you don't have that, your heart has to work really fast to get all those nutrients to your muscles. But the thing is, in order for that to happen, we have to let our heart basically fill full with blood so it can pump. If it has to pump really fast when you're doing something more intense, and you won't make those adaptations. So if you want to build a good aerobic fitness, we need that low moderate intensity. So things like HIIT won't do it. And HIIT has its place, but as far as building an overall good conditioning base, I would stick with the aerobic training program. Now, a few ways that you can do this. I hate doing this style of cardio. It's boring. So what I always like to do is I like to pick a few exercises I don't hate, and I just run through it for 30 minutes, make sure my heart rate's in the zone. So for example, I might go on the air bike for 3 minutes, then drag the sled around for a little bit, and then maybe I'll do some shadow boxing for 3 minutes. I'll just rotate through that. So it's not super, not boring. What some people like to do, and I haven't really done it much, is if you go to the gym, you can bring your tablet, watch a movie, or your favorite TV show, binge on something. You can always do something like that. Or some people just like cardio. So if you're someone who likes cardio, maybe just put some music on, you go on the Stairmaster elliptical, and that's something you like to do. Awesome, that works too. You can jog too. A lot of people jog, but the thing with jogging is that it's very easy, especially if you're not a very efficient jogger, is to have your heart rate super high. You just want to make sure that you're jogging. You usually probably have to jog kind of slow. Another way you could do a zone 2 is walking. You can walk outside with a weighted vest. Sometimes that's enough to get yourself in that zone 2 state. The third thing I want to talk about is high-low, because I think as a high belt, if you want to stay in shape and you start adding strength training, start adding cardio, it's really important to talk about. You have to manage stress, and this depends how many days you train jiu-jitsu. So I train 6 days, which is a lot, and maybe as I get older, I'll have to kick back a little bit. But if you do train frequently, it's important to understand the high-low method, because that really helps you train properly so you can recover. And I think not only does it help you recover, I think it helps you get better at jiu-jitsu. At least that's my experience. So the idea here is that you have high-intensity days and low-intensity days. So you don't want too many high-intensity days in a row. So ideally, it might be a high-intensity day and low-intensity day. So low-intensity can either be, hey, it's a rest day, or it's just like you're doing things that aren't going to really stress the body a ton. So for example, say you do jiu-jitsu 2 days in a row. It could be a day where, hey, you're going to have some really hard rounds and challenging rounds. And the next day, maybe you take it a little easy, you don't roll as hard. Maybe it's more like a flow, or maybe instead of being like, when you train for competition, you're always doing your A game and you're trying to be very assertive with what you want. Maybe on that rest day, it's more like you're reacting to things, or maybe you're working on something new. And how I like to do it is like, usually, at least with my school, like there's certain days where like, okay, I know these guys come on these days and I like to roll hard with them. So those are kind of my high days. And then I have these days where it's like maybe it's a smaller class, it's a lot of lower belts, and I'll just count that as like a lower day. So you want to try to sync this with your strength and conditioning. So ideally, your high days would be strength training, because that's very that can be stressful to the body. Versus like if you do like an aerobic day like we talked about before, that's not super stressful to the body, so that could actually be a low day, as long as you're not going crazy with heart rate and you're doing it how I said. So you would just go back and forth. So that's why sometimes I get pushback on this, but I do think it works very well. It's like if you can strength train on the same days you have hard rolls, and then on the next day, it can be a pure rest day. Because what ends up happening is like if you lift weights and say you'll go pretty hard, then you go to jiu-jitsu, you go pretty hard, then you lift weights the next day, you never actually have the rest day, and that's how you can really start accumulating a lot of fatigue to your muscles and your nervous system, which is why sometimes you might get injured, you might get sick easier, you might lose motivation to train. So the high-low method is the idea is to help prevent all that stuff so you can actually recover. If you train 6 days a week or a lot, like I train a lot, so you don't really have a lot of rest days. The only day I actually rest is Sunday, but like I have days where I go easy. Like Fridays, I usually go pretty easy in an open mat, and I don't usually lift too super heavy on Fridays. And lately Friday's been more like an off day or like an aerobic day. So the next thing I want to mention is training injuries. Now, I'm a big fan of training through. I shouldn't say through, but training through injuries or training around injuries. So if you're hurt, too many people use that excuse, hey, I'm not going to strength train. But dude, if you hurt your knee, you can go to the gym and train your upper body, no problem. Vice versa. Your elbow or shoulder's killing you, you can go to the gym and train your legs. So I think you should always strength train. A few things. This will allow you not to get out of shape, because you know how it is, especially if you don't like strength training and you're like, oh, I'm hurt, so I'm going to take a week off. Then you're feeling better. It might take you a while to get back into the weight room. But you're just going to stay in better shape, and I think overall you're going to improve your body, make your body really strong, so you're more resistant to injury. So especially if you're like, okay, I hurt my shoulder, so I can't do, every time I do chest presses, it really kills my shoulder. So don't train through it. That's not what I'm saying. Don't do chest presses, but maybe you could do rows. That doesn't hurt. I can do bicep curls. That doesn't hurt. So if you train like that, you're going to really build the muscles up around the injured area. And I think that's going to help you become stronger, more resilient to injuries down the road. So never take a week off. Like when I say never, I just like, usually you should be lifting weights. There's really no reason why you can't. If you go on vacation, go on vacation, enjoy it. But always just try to fit into your routine. If that's like working out at home, bodyweight style, maybe have a little gym set up, or maybe you like going to the gym. You go to the gym before work or after work, whatever you like to do. I would just always strength train, and don't use injuries as an excuse not to strength train, because overall, I think long term, it's going to be better. And what we have to remember with injuries, we get injured because we have a weakness and we're fragile in some way. All right, I'm not saying that to be a dick, but in some way, our body is fragile, and when someone applies too much force in that direction, we get hurt. Now, we could just be scared and, hey, I'm not going to strength train. I'm not going to roll with this big guy. Or we can really try to bulletproof a body and build really resilient muscles, bones, and ligaments, and that's what I'm a fan of. And by strength training consistently, that's exactly what you're going to do. So the next thing, guys, is exercise selection. So exercise selection is extremely important in my book, especially for me as you get older, because sometimes you're like, especially if you have a big leg up in the gym, you're like, oh, I used to do barbell squats, I used to do barbell bench, I used to do this. Like, you're not that anymore, and those exercises may no longer be a great fit. Maybe they weren't a great fit for when you were younger. So for a quick example is like, if you have a back squat, but you have really bad shoulders, when you get under the bar, you're going to probably put a lot of pressure on your shoulders, your elbows, and because you can't really get under the bar well under your shoulders, you start arching your back. So when you squat, you're putting so much pressure on your back. Again, this is just an example of back squat is a great exercise, but if you can't do an exercise properly because of mobility restrictions or for whatever reason it's just beat you up, remember, no exercise is required. All right, so we just want movement. We want to hit like these leg movements. We want to hit the upper body push, upper body pull, but we want to find variations that don't mess up our joints, that we can train with a pretty high intensity, so we can make gains in the gym, so we can build strong, resilient bodies. So instead of a back squat, maybe you do a goblet squat, or maybe you can't really squat anymore, so maybe you're doing a leg press or a hack squat. There's so many different things that we can do. There's never really a good reason to be like, hey, I'm not going to train my legs anymore. So another one is bench press. People love to bench press, but a lot of guys, the bench press, it keeps you in this rigid thing. And again, if you can bench press pain-free, go for it. But if you're bench pressing a day later, your neck's screwed up, your shoulder's screwed up, you can find different press variations that probably don't mess up your shoulder so much. So things like, a lot of times dumbbell presses, a lot of people can do that a little more pain-free, because you can play around with the shoulder position. Like, this might hurt your shoulders, but if your elbows are closer to your body, maybe that doesn't hurt so much. And we could do the same thing for back exercises, same thing for single leg exercises. You know, if deadlifts hurt your back, you could do things like hip thrusters or leg curls to still hit your hamstrings, but without messing up your back. There's always an exercise we can do, and we want to just be careful of exercise selection. If you're getting back into it, what I'd recommend is try to pick very easy or simple exercises, and then over time you might be able to progress. So for example, if you haven't lifted in years, maybe instead of being like, oh, I'm going to do a back squat, maybe you start with a goblet squat for a month, all right? It might seem like a foo-foo exercise, be holding a dumbbell and you can't really use that much weight, but maybe that's what you need just to learn the pattern again. And then after that, instead of progressing right to a back squat, maybe you progress that to like a Zercher squat or a front squat or a safety butt squat, because that's a simpler exercise to learn. A lot of the main lifts, the power lifts, they're actually pretty technical, and people don't realize that. Even you think of something like a bent over row. Very common exercise in the gym, but it's actually very advanced when you think about it. You have to bend over, you have to maintain a good posture. Then you're working multiple muscle groups, like you're bending your elbows, you're pulling the weight up, you're trying to pull your shoulder blades back. There's a lot of stuff going on. So sometimes the exercise we're like, oh, this is just basic exercise. It's actually pretty technical. And sometimes when you're getting back into it, or if you get injured, what you have to do is you have to take a step back with, how can I do a simpler, like maybe more beginner exercise, and then I'll get strong at that beginner exercise, and then I can start advancing to better exercise selection. But I think exercise selection is huge, especially if you're in the older crowd, you know, wherever that is to you. Like I'm 38 plus, so I'm probably getting towards that older crowd. Sometimes people still say like, oh, 38 is not old, but you know, I'll have 30-year-olds be like, oh, my body broke down when I was 30 years old, everything started breaking. And I think more than anything, like people like to blame shit on their age, but honestly, I think it's more of a product of not taking care of your body, right? Things are going to happen as you get older. Like I'm not going to say that things aren't hard, but sometimes people blame things on age when I don't really think it's much to do with the age. It's more with like your self-responsibility of your body. I think I got one more for you guys. All right, so this one's super simple. And I'll end it here. Is basic fitness stuff. Like if you're not already doing that stuff, like that kid's going to take you a long way from your jiu-jitsu performance, from staying healthy on the mat. So things like steps, like you might hear this in the fitness if you hire a trainer, it's like, oh, get your steps in, and you know, it's just being active, getting blood flowing, burning calories. It's going to help you keep a good body weight. It's going to help you It's going to help you stay active. It's going to improve your heart. It's very there's a lot of health benefits from things like if you're getting vitamin D, you're getting things outside. I know for most people, if you spend more time outside, you just kind of feel better too. So like basic stuff like that, like steps. Do you know, are you constantly overeating junk food? All right. If you just kind of clean up your diet, you don't have to eat perfect, but the basic stuff like, okay, eat more lean proteins, have more fruits and vegetables in your diet, have more fibrous foods, right? Have better control your portion sizes. Limit junk food. If you drink alcohol a lot, like try to cut back on that. Some of that basic stuff is going to really help you stay in shape as you get older, so you can do jiu-jitsu for a long time, but it's really going to fight off injuries, because if you're training, and this is what happens with jiu-jitsu, this is why I think the injuries are so high sometimes, is because you fall in love with jiu-jitsu, it's so fun, but it's a stress on the body. So if you're doing it like every day or 5 days a week and you're rolling hard every time, but then you're not giving your body the raw resources it actually needs to recover from this intense training, like you under recover, and then before you know it, you're getting hurt, you're getting sick. All of a sudden you're so tired and fatigued, you don't feel like training anymore. So I think that still plays a big role in that. So that's the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys are interested in coaching, I'll put the link in the description. If you want to download my free BJJ Masterclass, where I send you a series of emails of my best strategies to get you not gassing out, getting you being able to recover fast in between rounds, being allowing you to train more frequently without feeling so beat up and injured. I'll put the link in the description.